The tow driver had already backed up to my father's old F-150 when HOA Karen pointed at the truck and said, "Take it." Not her truck. Her truck. Not common property. My dad's truck, the same blue Ford he rebuilt after coming home from Vietnam, sitting on the driveway our county survey showed belonged to us. My father stood there in his veteran cap, silent. I did not yell. I opened the folder with the deed, the driveway survey, and the tow order that would cost her the presidency. Let me back up. The first thing I heard was not the tow truck. It was my father saying my name. Not loudly. Not in panic. Just once, from the front room, in that low gravel voice he used when something had gone wrong. "Mark." I was at the kitchen table, with my coffee halfway finished, sorting through a folder I had already labeled in black marker. Cedar Hollow HOA. Truck. Driveway. When I came around the corner, Earl Reynolds was standing by the living room window with one hand on the curtain. My father was 81 years old then. Vietnam veteran. Retired factory mechanic. 2 hip surgeries. 1 bad shoulder. He wore the same faded green cap almost every day, the one with the frayed gold lettering across the front. Vietnam veteran. He was not a man who complained. If Earl Reynolds said your name from another room, you went. Outside at the end of our driveway, a tow truck was backing up toward his old blue Ford F-150. The truck was a 1978. Long bed. Faded paint. Chrome bumper my father had polished thin. It smelled like old vinyl, motor oil, and peppermint candies. My father had rebuilt that truck after he came home from Vietnam. Piece by piece. Paycheck by paycheck. The passenger seat still had a small tear where my fishing tackle box caught the brown vinyl when I was 12. My father never fixed it. He said some marks were proof that something had been used by people who loved it. That truck had carried lumber for our back deck, pulled neighbors out of ditches after storms, and delivered boxes to the VFW food drive every Thanksgiving. And now Brenda Carlisle was standing beside it with a clipboard, pointing like she owned it. On paper, Brenda was president of the Cedar Hollow Homeowners Association. In practice, she treated the neighborhood like a small country she had been elected to run for life. She wore white pants, a cream blazer, and oversized sunglasses, even though the morning was cloudy. In one hand, she held a yellow violation notice. In the other, a phone she kept lifting toward the tow driver. The tow truck beeped as it reversed. My father did not move. That bothered me more than if he had shouted. I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. Brenda turned before the driver did. "Mr. Reynolds," she said, "you were given notice. The board voted. That vehicle leaves today." That vehicle. Not my father's truck. Not the Ford he had kept running longer than most people keep marriages. That vehicle. I walked down the porch steps slowly. The doorbell camera above me was already recording. It had captured Brenda arriving in her white Sav, the tow truck pulling up behind her, and her standing on my driveway extension waving the driver closer. That mattered. Brenda had a habit of turning calm homeowners into hostile residents in her emails. Angry interaction. Refusal to cooperate. Threatening tone. She used those phrases like tools. So I gave her nothing she could use. I did not raise my voice. I did not step toward her. I looked at the tow driver first. "Are you hooking that truck?" He glanced at Brenda, then at me. "I was told this is an HOA removal," he said. "Did she give you written board authorization?" Brenda answered before he could. "The association has authorized corrective action." "That is not what I asked." Her smile tightened. "Mr. Reynolds, you have been warned repeatedly. Your father's junk vehicle is parked on common area and is damaging property values." Behind me, I heard my father exhale through his nose. "Junk vehicle." That was the moment I almost lost my temper. Because people like Brenda strip things of meaning first. A veteran's truck becomes a junk vehicle. A family driveway becomes common area. A man who keeps records becomes difficult. I looked down at the concrete under my boots. The driveway extension was on the right side of the main drive. My father had added it after he moved in with me because the F-150 was too long to park comfortably behind my car. We had done it properly. The county driveway expansion permit was issued on May 12, 2018. Cedar Hollow S Architectural Committee approved the plan on May 18. The concrete was poured June 4. The final inspection was signed June 11. The survey, dated April 27, showed the extension entirely inside Lot 18, 18 inches from the utility easement, and nowhere near the HOA common strip Brenda kept talking about. The F-150 was registered, insured, tagged, operational. My father had driven it to the VFW hall 12 days earlier. So this was not an abandoned vehicle case. It was not a blocked sidewalk case. It was not a common area parking case. It was a private driveway, a legal truck, and an HOA president pretending her clipboard could move a property line. Paper does not get loud. It does not point. It waits until the person with fake authority says something the record can answer. I said, "Show me the common area map." Brenda laughed once. "I do not carry subdivision records door to door." "No," I said. "You just carry tow orders." The tow driver had lowered the wheel lift by then. The metal arms were inches behind my father's rear tires. He had the uncomfortable expression of someone realizing the job was not as clean as he had been told. I turned to him again. "Who requested this tow?" He looked at his clipboard. "Brenda Carlisle." "From the HOA office?" He hesitated. Brenda snapped, "That is internal association business." "It came through the online dispatch form," the driver said. "Signed by her." "With a board resolution attached?" He looked down again. "No, sir." That was the first crack. Small. But the camera caught it. Brenda stepped forward. "This is not a courtroom," she said. "No," I said. "It is my driveway." For the first time that morning, her face changed. Only a little, but enough. Then she looked past me, toward my father behind the storm door. "Your father has had every opportunity to handle this respectfully," she said. "Military service does not exempt anyone from community standards." The porch went very quiet. My father looked down. He did not cry. Earl Reynolds would rather break his own hand than let Brenda Carlisle see him cry. But I saw his jaw move once, the way it did when he was swallowing something he refused to say. That sentence did something to me. Not because she had said it. Because she had practiced it. I reached into the folder I had brought outside. It held the first violation notice, my written request for the exact rule and board vote, the deed to Lot 18, the 2018 driveway survey, the county permit, the HOA approval letter, the F-150 registration, and the management company email saying they could not locate any towing authorization. Brenda had a clipboard. I had the record. There is a difference. I held up the survey. "This driveway extension is inside my property line." Brenda waved the yellow notice. "The board disagrees." The board cannot disagree with a recorded survey. The board has authority to interpret community standards. Not on land it does not own. The tow driver's eyes moved from Brenda to the paper in my hand. That was when Brenda made her first real mistake of the morning. She turned to him and said, "Continue." He did not move. She raised her voice. I said, "Continue." The driver said, "Ma'am, do you actually have board authorization?" Brenda looked offended. "I am the HOA president," she said. "That is authorization." There it was. Clear. Confident. Completely wrong. And recorded from 3 angles. The doorbell camera caught her face. The driveway camera caught the tow lift behind the truck. My phone caught every word. I called the non-emergency sheriff S line. Brenda smiled when she heard me give the address. "You are calling the police on the HOA?" "No," I said. I am documenting an attempted unauthorized tow from private property. The word documenting changed the air. People who rely on pressure hate documentation. They want confusion, noise, shame, and speed. They do not want timestamps, permit numbers, survey lines, registration cards, or emails from the management company. The deputy arrived 16 minutes later. Brenda walked toward him first. "Officer," she said, softening her voice, "this is an HOA compliance matter. The homeowner has refused repeated requests to remove a non-compliant vehicle from association property." The deputy looked at the Ford, the tow truck, and the concrete under it. I said, "I have the deed, the driveway survey, the county permit, approval, the vehicle registration, the violation notices, and the management company email inside." Brenda cut in. "He is attempting to confuse a simple enforcement issue." The deputy held up one hand. "I am going to speak with everybody one at a time." The deputy asked Brenda whether she had written board authorization for the tow. She said, "The board voted." "Do you have the written authorization with you?" "Not physically." He wrote that down. Then he asked the tow driver who requested the tow. "Mrs. Carlisle submitted it," the driver said. "Any board resolution attached?" "No." The deputy wrote that down too. Then he asked me whether the truck was registered and operational. I handed him the cards. My father, still standing on the porch, said quietly, "It runs." The deputy looked at the tow driver. "Do not hook or move this vehicle unless you receive clear written authority and resolve the property issue." For the first time that morning, my father stepped fully onto the porch. He did not say anything. He just stood there in his veteran cap, one hand on the railing, looking at the truck he had kept alive for more than 40 years. The tow driver raised the wheel lift. That sound, metal pulling back from metal, was the first breath I took all morning. But Brenda was not finished. As the deputy returned to his cruiser, she leaned close enough that my phone still caught her voice. "You have made this much worse for yourself." That became the next tab. By lunchtime, Brenda had emailed the board claiming I had created a hostile scene during lawful enforcement activity. She copied the management company, the compliance committee, and 2 board members who had never approved a tow. At the bottom, because Brenda could not help herself, she wrote the sentence that would follow her all the way to the clubhouse meeting. As HOA president, I authorized immediate towing after repeated homeowner non-compliance. I printed that email, punched 3 holes in it, and placed it behind the sheriff incident number. Brenda thought she had almost taken my father's truck. What she had really done was put her own signature on the lie. But to understand why she wanted that old Ford gone so badly, you have to go back 3 weeks earlier. Back to the first yellow notice on my front door. Back to the phrase "unauthorized vehicle" on HOA Common Strip. And back to the moment I realized Brenda Carlisle was not enforcing the rules. She was inventing authority and hoping an old veteran would be too tired to make her prove it. 3 weeks before Brenda Carlisle brought a tow truck to my driveway, my father's F-150 was not a controversy. It was just there. That is how old things become part of a house. They stop looking like objects and start becoming landmarks. The blue Ford sat on the right side driveway extension every morning, nose toward the street, windshield catching the first light over Cedar Hollow's maple trees. Why, some neighbors had bird baths. We had that truck. My name is Mark Reynolds. I was 58 when Brenda decided my father's truck was a threat to the community. I had lived in Cedar Hollow for 16 years, in a quiet subdivision outside Knoxville, Tennessee, with brick mailboxes, trimmed lawns, and HOA newsletters that used the word harmony too often. My father, Earl Reynolds, moved in with me in 2017 after his second hip surgery. He did not want to. The doctors used words like fall risk and long-term support. My father heard only one word: burden. So when I told him he was moving in with me, he argued for 3 days. On the 4th day, he looked at the F-150 in his driveway and said, "If the truck comes, I'll come." The truck came. It was a 1978 Ford F-150 Ranger, Dark blue once, lighter blue now where the Tennessee sun had worked on it for 40 years. It had a straight 6 engine my father trusted more than most people and a bench seat with a torn spot from my old tackle box. He bought it used in 1981, rebuilt the carburetor, patched the floorboard, and kept a notebook in the glove box where he wrote down every oil change. He did not call it a classic. He called it my truck. After Dad moved in, that Ford was how he stayed himself. He drove it to the VFW hall, the hardware store, and 6 blocks to the church pantry because, as he put it, a truck ought to carry something useful. After his second hip surgery, he could not walk far, but he could still climb into that truck slowly, pull the door shut with both hands, and sit behind the wheel like the world had not taken everything from him. That was why I built the driveway extension. The original driveway was narrow. If Dad parked by the curb, the street slope made it hard for him to step down safely. So in the spring of 2018, I did what homeowners are supposed to do under an HOA. I asked first. I hired a licensed surveyor to confirm the right side property line. The survey came back dated April 27, 2018. It showed Lot 18, the utility easement, the drainage strip, and the HOA common strip farther out near the sidewalk island. Then I applied for a county driveway expansion permit. Permit issued May 12. The Architectural Committee approval from Cedar Hollow, dated May 18. Concrete poured June 4. Final county inspection signed June 11. I kept every page. Not because I expected trouble. Because my father had raised me that way. Earl Reynolds used to say, "A receipt is not for the day you buy something. It is for the day somebody claims you did not." That sentence stuck with me. So, when the driveway extension was finished, I made a folder. Survey, permit, HOA approval, inspection, contractor invoice, paid receipt. Nothing dramatic. Just paper sitting quietly in a file cabinet, waiting for a day I did not know was coming. For 5 years, nobody said a word. Then Brenda Carlisle became president. Within 6 weeks, Cedar Hollow changed. The notices got yellower, the fines got faster, and anything could become a violation if Brenda looked at it long enough. The first yellow notice arrived on a Thursday morning. I remember because Thursdays were Dad's VFW mornings, and he had already left when I found it taped just below the glass panel. Violation notice. Homeowner, Mark Reynolds. Lot 18. Alleged violation. Unauthorized oversized vehicle, parked on HOA common strip and inconsistent with Cedar Hollow community standards. Correction required within 48 hours. Failure to comply may result in daily fines, towing, legal fees, and assessment of all enforcement costs to homeowner account. I stood there for a long moment, not because I was confused about the truck. Because I was confused about the lie. HOA common strip. The F-150 was not on grass. It was not on the street. It was not blocking the sidewalk. It was not touching the utility easement. It was parked on concrete I had paid to pour, on land my survey showed belonged to Lot 18. I want to be clear. I was not claiming an HOA could never regulate vehicles on private driveways. If Cedar Hollow had a valid covenant about registered trucks, size limits, commercial markings, inoperable vehicles, or parking appearance, Brenda needed to cite that exact section and follow the notice, hearing, and board approval process. But that was not what her notice said. Her notice said common strip. Common strip required a plat. Towing required written authority. And she had provided neither. I took the notice inside and set it on the kitchen table. Then I made coffee. That may sound too calm, but calm is not the same thing as passive. Calm is what lets you read the sentence that matters instead of reacting to the sentence meant to scare you. The sentence meant to scare me was towing. The sentence that mattered was common strip. Because if Brenda was claiming common area, she needed a map. At 9:12 that morning, I sent Brenda one email. Mrs. Carlisle, I received the violation notice dated August 3 regarding the 1978 Ford F-150 parked on my driveway extension. Please provide the specific covenant section allegedly violated, the survey or plat showing the area is HOA common property, the date of any board vote authorizing towing, the approved meeting minutes reflecting that vote, and the appeal or hearing procedure available before any fine or tow action. I have attached the 2018 driveway survey, county permit, final inspection, and HOA architectural approval. No emotion. No insult. No threat. Paper, talking to paper. She replied 36 minutes later. Mr. Reynolds, the board is not required to debate settled compliance matters with individual homeowners. The vehicle must be removed from the common strip within 48 hours. She attached nothing. That was the first real sign. People with authority attach the authority. People pretending to have it repeat themselves. When Dad came home from the VFW, he saw the notice on the table. He read it once, then sat down slowly. They want the truck gone, he said. They say it S on common area. He looked toward the window, where the Ford sat exactly where it always sat. Is it? No. What? He nodded. That was all. But later that afternoon, I saw him standing beside the truck, one hand resting on the hood. He was not polishing it. He was just touching it, the way a man touches something he is afraid someone else has already decided does not matter. That night, I called the management company. The woman who answered introduced herself as Denise Porter. I asked one question. Do your records show any HOA common strip crossing the right side driveway extension on lot 18? She put me on hold. When she came back, her voice was careful. I do not see that in the plat records we have. Lot 18 shows a utility easement, but not a common area where you are describing. I wrote it down. Date, time, name, exact words. Then I asked her to send it by email. That email arrived at 4:43 p.m. I printed it. That became tab 1. The yellow violation notice became tab 2. My email to Brenda became tab 3. Her reply became tab 4. The survey, permit, HOA approval, and final inspection became tabs 5 through 8. The binder had started. On day 2, Brenda came to the house with Carl Mead from the compliance committee. Brenda stood on the driveway with her clipboard tucked against her chest, looking down at the Ford as if it were leaking poison. Mr. Reynolds, she said, I wanted to offer you one last neighborly opportunity to avoid enforcement. Neighborly. That was one of Brenda's words. She used it right before threatening you. I said, I asked for the covenant section, the common area map, the board vote, and the hearing procedure. The board has broad authority to protect community standards. Do you have a plat showing this concrete is common area? The common strip issue has been reviewed. By who? The board. What date? Carl looked at the ground. Brenda said, you are focusing on technicalities. No, I said. I am focusing on ownership and procedure. Then she lowered her voice. Your father's attachment to that truck does not change the rules. I looked toward the front window. Dad was standing inside, behind the curtain, watching. That was when I knew this was not about concrete. It was not about an oversized vehicle. It was about Brenda deciding that an old blue Ford with a veteran sticker in the back window did not match the picture she wanted Cedar Hollow to present. I said, send me the documents. Brenda smiled. You have 48 hours. Carl lingered half a second after she turned away. He looked at the truck, then at me. Very quietly, he said I'd keep everything. Then he followed her. I did. I kept the notice. I kept the emails. I kept the voicemail she left that evening. I kept a time-stamped photograph of the F-150 sitting fully on the driveway extension. And I kept the note I wrote on the inside cover of the binder that night. If she says it is common area, make her prove the map. Day 4 brought the certified letter. Final compliance warning. The fine would be $200 per day. The letter claimed the truck was oversized, non-compliant, and parked on association-controlled common strip. It claimed the board had reviewed the matter and approved towing if the vehicle remained after the deadline. At the bottom, Brenda wrote one sentence in bold. The board has voted to authorize removal at homeowner expense. I read that sentence twice. Then I opened Dennis' email again. No common area where you are describing. I looked at the survey. Lot 18. Private driveway. Concrete inside the line. Then I punched 3 holes in Brenda's certified letter and placed it into the binder. By then, I understood the shape of the problem. Brenda Carlisle was not confused. She was building authority out of repetition. Common strip. Board voted. Community standards. Removal authorized. If she said those words enough times, she thought an old veteran and his son would eventually hear them as law. But words are not records. And sooner or later, Brenda was going to say the wrong words in front of the right camera. That certified letter changed the way I looked at Cedar Hollow. Not because I believed Brenda Carlisle had the authority she claimed. Because I understood she was no longer trying to solve a violation. She was trying to create a record that looked like one. The letter sat on my kitchen table. Final compliance warning across the top. $200 per day. Removal at homeowner expense. Board voted. Board voted. But there was no meeting date. No motion number. No vote count. No minutes. No hearing notice. No appeal form. No towing policy attached. Nothing that showed the board had done what Brenda said it had done. Paper does not need to be dramatic to be dangerous. Sometimes what matters most is what is missing. So I wrote one sentence on a yellow legal pad. If they voted, there are minutes. Then I started tracking every day. Day 5, 200. Day 6, 400. Day 7, 600. By the end of that first week, Brenda claimed my account owed $1,000 for a truck that was registered, insured, operational, and parked on private concrete inside Lot 18. Dad watched me update the total while the evening news played low in the living room. "You don't have to fight this because of me," he said. Fighting because she thinks you will be embarrassed enough to give up." He looked toward the front window. The F-150 sat under the porch light. "I've been embarrassed by better people than her," he said. On day 8, Brenda sent an email with the subject line continuing noncompliance. "Mr. Reynolds, your refusal to remove the oversized vehicle from association-controlled common strip continues to create unnecessary enforcement expense. The board has voted to proceed with all remedies available under the governing documents, including towing and lien-related collection activity." There it was again. Association-controlled common strip. Board has voted. Lien-related. She was stacking scary words on top of missing documents. I replied the same way I had before. "Please provide the covenant section, the common area plat, the date of the board vote, the approved minutes, the hearing procedure, and the written towing authority." No insult. No emotion. When the other side is inventing authority, do not argue with every adjective. Ask for the noun. Rule. Map. Vote. Minutes. Authority. She did not answer. Instead, she forwarded my reply to the compliance committee and copied the management company. Her message said, "Mr. Reynolds continues to obstruct enforcement by making excessive document demands after repeated notice." Excessive document demands. That meant asking for proof. I printed it. Tab 9. On day 9, I sent certified letters to Brenda, the board, the management company, and the compliance committee. Each letter asked for the covenant section, the common area plat, the vote date, the approved minutes, the towing authority, and the hearing procedure. I also requested a formal hearing to appeal the violation and all fines before any towing action occurred. Certified mail. Return receipt requested. That became tab 10. On day 10, the management company responded. Denies Porter again. Mr. Reynolds, we have received your certified request and forwarded it to the board. At this time, our office has not located a recorded board vote authorizing towing from Lot 18. We also do not have a common area plat showing your driveway extension as association property. We are asking the board for clarification. Please preserve all records. Careful language. Corporate language. But enough. I printed it twice. One copy for the binder. One copy for Dad. He read it at the kitchen table, holding the page with both hands. So she doesn't have it, he said. She has shown it. That S not the same thing. No, I said. But it S close enough to keep asking. On day 11, Brenda changed tactics. The fight moved from paper to shame. At 7:16 in the morning, she posted in the Cedar Hollow Residents Facebook group. She did not use our names. She did not have to. Some residents believe personal history or sentimental attachments excuse violations that affect the entire community. Cedar Hollow S standards protect everyone's property values. Large non-compliant vehicles cannot be allowed to turn our driveways into storage lots. Within 20 minutes, the comments started. Is this about the old blue truck on Willow Bend? I wondered how long that was going to sit there. Rules are rules. Then a neighbor named Tom Alvarez commented, Is that truck registered and parked on their driveway? His comment disappeared within 11 minutes. I had already taken screenshots. Full screen. Timestamp visible. Tab 11. Dad did not see the post until later. I wish he had not seen it at all. He was not on Facebook, but Cedar Hollow had a way of carrying cruelty from phone screens to mailboxes by lunchtime. A neighbor, he barely knew, slowed down while he was checking the mail and said, Hope they don't tow your war truck, Earl. War truck. The man may have meant it as a joke. Dad smiled politely because that was what he did. Then he came inside and put his cap on the kitchen counter. He did not take that cap off in the middle of the day unless something had landed where he could not brush it away. That was the first time I felt anger turn into something colder. Anger wants to shout. Cold anger buys printer ink. On day 12, Brenda left a voicemail. Mr. Reynolds, this is your final opportunity to resolve this without additional expense. The board has no desire to escalate, but your continued refusal is forcing our hand. If the vehicle remains, towing will be scheduled. Forcing our hand. People like Brenda use that phrase to make their choice sound like your fault. I saved the voicemail, downloaded the audio, emailed it to myself, and transcribed it. Tab 12. On day 13, Carl Mead from the Compliance Committee knocked on my door alone. He held no clipboard that time. I should to be here, he said. That makes two of us. He looked tired. Brenda told the committee the truck was partly on Common Strip. She showed us a cropped photo. A cropped photo? Probably, he nodded. Close angle. You couldn't see the driveway edge. Did she show the survey? No. Did the committee vote? He looked down. We discussed it. That's not a vote. I know. Then he said, I don't think the board voted on towing. I think Brenda told people we had already approved it. I did not ask him to sign anything. I only said, send me what you re comfortable sending. That night, he emailed one sentence. I do not recall a formal compliance committee vote or board vote authorizing towing of the vehicle at Lot 18. I printed it. Tab 13. That was the first crack from inside Brenda's own side. On day 14, Brenda sent the account statement. Total due, $2,000. Violation fines, $2,600. Administrative processing fee, $250. Towing preparation fee, $150. No tow had happened. No hearing had happened. No board vote had been produced. But Brenda had created a fee for preparing to do the thing she could not prove she was allowed to do. For a retired man on a fixed income, $2,000 was not paperwork. It was medication, groceries, and a winter utility bill. I printed the statement and wrote one note in the margin. Charging for unauthorized preparation is still evidence. Tab 14. On day 15, Dad asked if moving the truck for a few days would make things easier. That question hurt more than the fees. He was standing in the garage, looking at the Ford through the open door. The hood was up because he had been checking the belts. "No," I said. "But it's just a truck." "No, it isn't." He closed the hood slowly. "She'll say, am the problem," he said. "Well, she already is." He nodded. "Then don't let her lie badly," he said. That became another kind of permission. On day 16, I checked Cedar Hollow's bylaws, covenants, and the vehicle policy adopted in 2014. There were rules about inoperable vehicles, commercial signage, blocked sidewalks, and common area parking. There was no rule banning registered pickup trucks on approved private driveway extensions. There was no rule allowing one board president to order a tow without a hearing, written authorization, and management company processing. Cedar Hollow's own towing policy required written management approval before any vehicle could be removed from a private lot. I copied every relevant page, highlighted the sections, then highlighted the absence. Absence can be evidence too. The blank space matters. On day 17, Brenda posted again. This time the wording was worse. Cedar Hollow values all residents, including those with military backgrounds. But no personal status allows a household to ignore rules that protect the rest of us, including those with military backgrounds. Dad's service had become a disclaimer. I took screenshots before she edited the post. 7 minutes later, the phrase changed to all backgrounds. Too late. The first version was already in the binder. Tab 15. That evening, Tom Alvarez knocked on my door and told me Brenda had used the same phrase against him the year before. "Board reviewed and approved," he said. "Same yellow paper. I paid $300 because my wife was sick and I didn't have the energy." I told him to keep every page. By then, I had 2 names, 2 files, and the beginning of a pattern. Brenda thought she was dealing with one truck. She was really standing on top of every shortcut she had taken with everyone else. On day 18, I received the email that told me she was done pretending. Subject: towing will proceed. Mr. Reynolds, your continued refusal to remove the non-compliant oversized vehicle leaves the association no choice. If the truck remains on the common strip after 8 a.m. Monday, I will arrange towing and assess all charges to your homeowner account. This matter has been fully authorized by the board. I read that email 3 times. I thought about sending Denise's email back to her. But then I looked at the last sentence. This matter has been fully authorized by the board. If I stopped Brenda right there, she would say she meant future authorization. She would say I misunderstood. She would say I was overreacting. So I let the record keep breathing. I printed the email, punched 3 holes in it, and placed it behind tab 16. Then I walked outside and checked the cameras. Front door, garage corner, side yard. All working. Dad was sitting in the driver's seat of the F-150 with the window down, one hand on the steering wheel, not driving anywhere. Just sitting. I stood beside the door. "You okay?" He looked at the Cedar Hollow entrance sign down the street. "I used to think coming home meant nobody could order you around anymore," he said. I did not know what to say to that. So I said the only thing that felt true. "She is going to make a mistake." Dad looked at me. I said, "And this time, we're going to have the whole thing on camera." He tapped the steering wheel once with 2 fingers. "Then keep the camera clean." On Monday morning, I did exactly that. I cleaned the camera lens before sunrise. Because Brenda Carlisle had told me, in writing, what she planned to do. and all I had to do now was let her arrive, believing fear was stronger than the record. Day 19 was Monday. I was outside before sunrise, wiping Tennessee pollen off the little black camera above the garage. The street was quiet. The F-150 sat exactly where it had sat for 5 years. Private concrete. Inside, lot 18. Registered. Insured. Operational. My father was already awake. I could see him through the front window, sitting at the kitchen table, with both hands around a coffee mug he had not touched. 7:42, Brenda Carlisle's white sub turned onto Willowbend. 2 minutes later, a tow truck followed her. By 7:47, all 3 cameras were recording. Brenda stepped out in a cream blazer, carrying her clipboard like a badge. She did not knock. She did not call. She stood beside my father's truck and pointed. That one. The tow driver looked at the F-150, then at the driveway, then at my house. I opened the front door before he lowered the lift. Brenda turned with that smile she used when she thought the scene already belonged to her. Mr. Reynolds, she said, you were warned. The board authorized removal. Please do not interfere. I walked down the steps slowly. Dad followed me as far as the porch. He had his Vietnam veteran cap on, but he held the railing like he did not trust the morning under his feet. I looked at the tow driver. Before you touch that truck, I need to see the written authorization. Brenda said, he does not need to see anything from you. That was the first sentence the cameras caught cleanly. I asked the driver, do you have a board resolution, management approval, or a court order? He looked at Brenda. She said, the association has approved this enforcement action. That is not what I asked. The driver pulled a work order from his clipboard. It says HOA tow, he said. Who submitted it? He checked the page. Brenda Carlisle. From the management company? No, sir. Online request. Management approval attached? He shook his head. Board minutes? No. Photo showing the truck on common property? He looked again. Just a close-up. A cropped photo. Exactly what Carl had warned me about. Brenda stepped toward him. You are not here to debate. You are here to remove the vehicle. He did not move. That hesitation saved him more trouble than he knew. I called the non-emergency sheriff's line. Brenda laughed under her breath. Again, she said, you really think law enforcement is going to manage your HOA responsibilities? No, I said. I think they are going to document an attempted unauthorized tow from private property. The word unauthorized landed harder that time. Deputy Willis arrived at 8:06. He looked at the truck, the tow truck, Brenda, then me. Brenda moved first. Deputy, this is a civil HOA matter. The homeowner has refused repeated lawful enforcement. Deputy Willis held up one hand. I am going to hear everybody. I handed him a thin packet, deed summary, survey, county permit, HOA driveway approval, registration, Denise S. email, Carl S. email, and the towing policy page. I am not asking you to decide an HOA case, I said. I am asking you to document that this tow is being attempted without written board authorization, without management approval, and from a private driveway. He read longer than Brenda wanted him to. Then he asked her, do you have written authorization from the board? The board voted. Do you have minutes? Not with me. Management approval? The president has authority to act in urgent matters. What is the emergency? Brenda pointed at the F-150. That vehicle is a continuing violation. Deputy Willis looked at the truck. Is it registered? I handed him the registration. Insured? I handed him the insurance card. Operational? Dad spoke from the porch. On full start right now. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. The deputy turned to the tow driver. Have you hooked the vehicle yet? No, sir. Do not hook it today unless you get clearer written authority. I'm documenting the dispute and the attempted tow. Brenda S. face hardened. This association will hold the homeowner responsible for every cost created by his obstruction. Deputy Willis wrote that down. So did I. That afternoon, I requested the tow company's dispatch record. I also sent a written preservation request asking them to retain the dispatch form, uploaded photos, call notes, driver messages, and GPS arrival record. I expected resistance. Instead, the owner called me himself. He said, "My driver said this one felt wrong. Send me your survey, and I'll send you what we received." By 4:12 p.m. I had the tow request. It showed Brenda Carlisle as the submitting party. Personal email address. No management company approval. No board resolution. No hearing record. No property map. The attached photo was cropped tight around the F-150, so the driveway edge and property line context disappeared. At the bottom of the form, Brenda had checked a box that said, "Authorized representative confirms legal right to remove vehicle." I printed that page first, then the cropped photo, then the owner's email confirming no additional authorization had been provided. Tabs 17, 18, and 19. That was Brenda's big mistake. Not the Facebook post. Not the fines. Not even the threat. The big mistake was turning a fake violation into a real attempted taking. She had moved from words to wheels. And wheels leave tracks. 3 days later, the special meeting notice came through the management company, although Brenda's language was all over it. Subject line: Vehicle Enforcement Matter Lot 18. Homeowner refusal to comply has created unnecessary cost, disruption, and reputational harm to the association. She wanted a public correction. So I brought the record. Dad asked if he should come. I told him he did not have to. He put on his veteran cap and said, "I didn't come home to hide from a clipboard." That night, the clubhouse was fuller than I had ever seen it. Folding chairs filled the room. People stood along the back wall. Tom Alvarez sat 2 rows behind me. Carl Meade avoided Brenda's eyes. Denise Porter from management sat at the board table with a laptop open. Brenda stood at the front with her clipboard. Always the clipboard. She opened by saying, "Tonight we are addressing a serious matter of continued homeowner noncompliance. Mr. Reynolds has repeatedly refused reasonable requests to remove an oversized vehicle from association-controlled common property." I let her finish. That mattered. People like Brenda create their own trap when they believe the room is already theirs. She said common property. She said board vote. She said removal authorized. She said my father's personal attachment had complicated a simple compliance issue. Then she looked at me. "Mr. Reynolds, you may respond briefly." Briefly. I stood with the binder in my hands. "I have 4 questions," I said. "Where is the rule? Where is the map? Where is the vote? And where is the towing authority?" The room shifted. I started with the survey. This is the 2018 license survey of Lot 18. This is the driveway expansion permit issued May 12. This is Cedar Hollow's own architectural approval dated May 18. The driveway extension is inside my lot. The truck is on that driveway. Not grass. Not street. Not sidewalk. Not common strip. Brenda interrupted. "The issue is community standards." I held up her first notice. "Your notice says common strip." I let the words sit. Common strip requires a plat. Then I moved to the next document. This is the management company email. It says there is no common area plat showing my driveway extension as association property. Denise leaned toward her microphone. "That is correct. Our office does not have that record." Brenda said, "The board reviewed this." I opened tab 13. This is an email from Carl Meade. He wrote, "I do not recall a formal compliance committee vote or board vote authorizing towing of the vehicle at Lot 18. Carl did not deny it. Then I opened the meeting records. There is no motion, no quorum record, no vote count, no approved minutes authorizing towing from Lot 18. Brenda said, "Not every operational discussion appears in the minutes." Denise looked up. A tow from private property is not an informal operational discussion. That was the first sentence that changed the room. I moved to the towing policy. This policy requires written management approval before a vehicle is removed from a private lot. This is Denise's email stating management had not located towing authorization. And this is the tow company dispatch form. I held it up. Submitted by Brenda Carlisle using her personal email. No board resolution attached. No management approval attached. No hearing record attached. No common area map attached. Someone in the back whispered, "Oh, come on." Then I played the video. Not the short version. The full version. It showed Brenda arriving at 7:44 with the tow truck behind her. It showed her point at my father's F-150 and say, "That one." It showed me ask for authorization. It showed the tow driver say the request came from Brenda. It showed Brenda say, "He does not need to see anything from you." It showed Deputy Willis ask for minutes. It showed Brenda say, "Not with me." And it showed my father on the porch saying, "It'll start right now." When that line played, the room went quiet. For the first time, people were not looking at an old truck. They were looking at an old man being asked to prove he still belonged in his own driveway. When the video ended, nobody spoke. Then Tom Alvarez stood up. "She did the same thing to me with my trailer," he said. He said, "The board reviewed it. I paid because my wife was sick." Brenda snapped, "This meeting is not about your trailer." A woman near the aisle raised her hand. "She fined me over my son's work van and never showed me a vote." Then another neighbor. "My late fees doubled before I ever got a hearing." The room was no longer watching me. It was watching Brenda. That was when she made her final mistake of the night. She pointed at the binder and said, "This is exactly the problem. Mr. Reynolds is weaponizing paperwork against the community." I almost smiled. But Denise spoke first. "Mrs. Carlisle," she said, "paperwork is how HOA authority is documented." That sentence landed like a gavel. The board secretary cleared his throat. "I move that Brenda Carlisle be suspended from all enforcement and towing access pending formal review of Lot 18 and related violation files." Another board member seconded it immediately. Brenda said, "You cannot do this based on theatrics." The secretary looked at the tow form, then at the survey, then at the frozen video image of my father standing on the porch. "We are doing it based on the record." Then he added, "Slowly for the room and for the minutes, this is not final removal tonight. This is an immediate suspension of enforcement authority until a properly noticed board review can be conducted and recorded." The vote was not final removal. Not yet. But that night, Brenda lost control of the one thing she had used against everyone. The process. Then Denise added one more thing. "Until review is complete, the management company is freezing all active fines, late fees, lien preparation, and towing charges issued under Mrs. Carlisle's enforcement authority." The room changed again. Tom put both hands over his face. The woman with the work van started crying quietly. My father sat beside me, cap in his lap, staring straight ahead. Brenda gathered her papers without looking at anyone. She walked out carrying the same clipboard she had walked in with. But this time it did not look like authority. It looked like evidence. In the next morning, Cedar Hollow would find out just how many files were sitting behind hers. The next morning, Cedar Hollow looked quiet. Sprinklers clicked across front lawns. A school bus sighed at the corner. Somebody's dog barked at the mail truck like it had been personally betrayed. But underneath all of that, the neighborhood was awake in a different way. People who had spent years deleting Brenda Carlisle's emails without opening them were suddenly digging through drawers. Old violation notices came out of kitchen baskets. Certified envelopes came out of file boxes. Screenshots came out of phones. By noon, Denise Porter from the management company called me. Mr. Reynolds, the board has voted to open a formal review of all active enforcement matters connected to Mrs. Carlisle. Lot 18 will be reviewed first. Good, I said. There will be a written hearing notice. You will have an opportunity to submit documents. I already have. There was a pause. Yes, she said. You have. That afternoon, I made copies of the spine of the case. The violation notice. The 2018 survey. The county permit. The HOA approval. Denise S. email. Carl S. email. The certified letters. The Facebook screenshots. The tow dispatch form. The cropped photo. The deputy incident number. The full video file on a flash drive. Paper for the board. Digital copy for management. One certified packet for myself. My father watched me assemble it at the kitchen table. You always did like school projects, he said. This one has higher stakes. He looked toward the driveway. The F-150 was still there. After everything Brenda had created, fines, shame, a tow truck, a sheriff report, and a clubhouse full of angry neighbors, the truck had not moved 1 inch. That is what property is supposed to mean. Not that rules do not exist. But when someone claims authority over your home, they must bring more than volume. They must bring the record. The formal hearing was scheduled for the following Thursday. This time, the notice came from the management company. It listed the agenda plainly: review of Lot 18 vehicle violation, review of towing authority, review of fines, and review of enforcement procedures used by Brenda Carlisle. Brenda attended with a lawyer. That was new. He was a thin man in a gray suit who carried one folder and spoke very softly. He did not call the truck junk. He did not call my father difficult. He did not say common strip. That told me plenty. People get careful when the record gets loud. The board secretary opened by saying no final action would be taken without a vote recorded in the minutes. Then Denise summarized the documents. She said the 2018 survey placed the driveway extension inside Lot 18. She said the management company did not possess a common area plat contradicting that survey. She said the truck was registered, insured, and operational. She said there was no approved board vote authorizing the attempted tow. She said Brenda had submitted the tow request using a personal email outside management procedure. She said the fines had been assessed before a documented hearing was offered. And she said the towing preparation fee had no basis in the adopted schedule of fines. One by one, the words Brenda had used as weapons were taken apart by the paperwork she had avoided. Common strip. No plat. Board voted. No minutes. Removal authorized. No approval. Non-compliant vehicle. No cited rule. When it was my turn to speak, I stood with my hands on the binder. I am not asking this board to ignore the governing documents, I said. I am asking you to follow them. If there is a valid rule, cite it. If there is a vote, record it. If land is common area, show the plat. But do not let one person turn personal preference into HOA authority. Then I looked at Brenda. My father did not ask for special treatment. He asked to park his registered truck on the driveway your own committee approved in 2018. Dad sat beside me, staring straight ahead, but I saw his hand close around the brim of his cap. Brenda S. lawyer spoke next. He said Mrs. Carlisle had acted in good faith based on her understanding of community standards. Good faith. That phrase gets used when the documents are bad. A board member asked him, "Can you identify the common area plat Mrs. Carlisle relied on?" He could not. Another asked, "Can you identify the board vote authorizing the tow?" He could not. Denise asked, "Can you explain why the tow request bypassed management?" He said he was not prepared to answer that. By then, the room had heard enough. The board voted unanimously to void every fine, fee, and towing preparation charge against Lot 18. Then they voted to issue a written apology to my father. Not to me. To him. That mattered more than the money. The letter arrived 4 days later. Mr. Earl Reynolds, the Cedar Hollow Homeowners Association, acknowledges that the violation and towing action concerning your 1978 Ford F-150 were issued and pursued without sufficient documentary support, without proper towing authorization, and without the procedural protections required by association policy. The association regrets the distress caused to you. Dad read it twice. Then he folded it along the center crease and put it in the glove box of the Ford, right beside his maintenance notebook. A week after the hearing, Brenda Carlisle resigned as HOA president. She called it a personal decision. The board minutes called it a resignation following enforcement review. Those are not the same sentence. She was removed from the compliance committee, the architectural review liaison position, and all access to violation software. Her association email was disabled. Her authority to issue notices, approve fines, contact tow companies, or represent the HOA to vendors was revoked. The tow company sent its invoice to Brenda personally. Not to me. Not to my father. Not to the HOA account. When she disputed it, the owner replied with her own checked box. Authorized representative confirms legal right to remove vehicle. I heard she paid it quietly. I do not know if that is true. What I know is the HOA did not. Then the wider review began. Tom Alvarez got his $300 trailer fine refunded. The woman with the son's work van had $840 in late fees reversed. 3 other residents had violation records corrected because no hearing notice had ever been issued. One widow on Maple Trace had been paying $50 a month on a landscaping fine Brenda had doubled without a vote. That balance disappeared from her account by the end of the month. Denai sent a neighborhood-wide memo. All towing actions would now require management approval, written board authorization, a documented hearing opportunity when required, and confirmation that the vehicle was either on common property or in clear violation of a cited covenant. All violation notices had to cite the exact section of the governing documents. All fines required a record of notice, cure period, hearing rights, and board action. Every board member had to attend enforcement training. It was not dramatic. It was better than dramatic. It was useful. For the first time in years, Cedar Hollow S rules had to pass through the process before they touched a homeowner S account. 2 Saturdays after Brenda resigned, Dad drove the F-150 to the VFW hall. I followed in my car because I pretended I needed to stop at the hardware store. He knew. At the first red light, the Ford idled a little rough, then settled into that old, steady rhythm I had heard my whole life. The veteran sticker in the back window was faded almost white. The chrome bumper caught the morning sun. When we pulled into the VFW lot, 3 men on the porch turned and looked. One of them lifted his coffee cup. Earl, he called, thought they finally stole that thing. Dad shut off the engine, climbed down slowly, and put one hand on the hood. No, he said. Still mine. Just 2 words. But I had to look away for a second. Because that was the whole case in plain English. It was still mine. The driveway. The truck. The dignity. The right to ask for proof before obeying someone with a clipboard. I kept the binder. It sits in the lower drawer of my desk now, labeled Cedar Hollow, Lot 18. The final tabs are the board minutes, the apology letter, the fine reversal, the management reform memo, and a photograph of Dad standing beside the F-150 outside the VFW hall. He is not smiling in the picture. Not exactly. But he is standing straight. Sometimes that is better. Brenda still lives in Cedar Hollow. I see her white SUV now and then. She no longer slows down in front of our house. She no longer posts reminders about community standards. She no longer carries that clipboard through the neighborhood like it has legal weight. And the Ford still sits on the driveway extension. Private concrete. Inside Lot 18. 18 inches from the utility easement. Nowhere near her common strip. Every Thanksgiving, Dad still loads canned goods into the bed and drives them to the VFW food drive. The tailgate sticks if you pull it too fast. The passenger seat still has the tear from my tackle box. The maintenance notebook is still in the glove box. Now, folded behind it, is the apology letter from the HOA. That is where it belongs. Not framed. Not displayed. Stored with the rest of the proof. Because fake authority does not collapse when you yell at it. It collapses when the record is cleaner than the lie. So, if an HOA Karen ever tapes a notice to your door, do not start by shouting. Start by reading. Ask for the rule. Ask for the map. Ask for the vote. Ask for the minutes. Ask for the hearing procedure. Ask for the authority behind the threat. Then keep every receipt. Keep the envelope. Keep the email. Keep the screenshot. Keep the voicemail. Keep the camera clean. Bullies count on silence. They count on shame. They count on people deciding that peace is worth more than proof. Sometimes peace is exactly why you need the proof. And if you have ever had an HOA, a board member, or a neighbor with fake authority come after your driveway, your truck, your fence, your ramp, your garden, or something that belonged to your family before they ever learned the word compliance, tell me your story in the comments. Because somewhere out there, another Brenda Carlisle is holding a clipboard and hoping the next homeowner does not know where the documents are. Make sure you do. Keep your receipts.